Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's Thursday, November 1st, 2018. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Born and unborn.
There you go.
Okay, any more minutes and reports received and filed? Okay, we'll skip the liaison reports. I don't think anything new is there. We got no bids and contracts. Got no unfinished business. New business EMS salary discussion.
So I just kind of wanted to bring it back and get some clarification on how we're implementing some of their new salary scales. I don't know where you guys want to start, or...
Well, it's basically several of our EMTs, right?
Well,
That's
so
the issue.
let's talk about a couple first. So,
Okay.
One, we have a part-timer that's going full-time.
Okay.
Does their part-time years of service count towards where they go on the scale? Because that's not necessarily how we implemented it at the beginning. So someone that was with us part-time that's going full-time, do they start at the starting? Or does their years of service as a part-timer count to where they should be on?
So in this instance, I would say normally no, that we would not count part-time service for full-time service, right? Because you're not dedicating that full-time service. However, in this instance, this was more of a decision based on our inability to fill that 12-hour EMT spot. We went 2 months trying to fill that spot and were unable to. This employee requested that if we could bring him in at step 1, which was $1,000 more than the opening step, then he would accept the position. And so from a cost saving standpoint, because we've been spending money on that recruitment effort, which is costly, and the fact that we didn't have to now take 2 to 4 weeks of time off an ambulance to train him, that it's actually a cost savings to the county to have taken this $1,000 increase versus going from, you know, if it takes me a month to train somebody and they're not working on an ambulance, that's money spent in training. And so in our opinion, this was the right move to get him in to fill that spot.
So the answer was no, but special circumstances here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so can we note that on the pay form somehow, so we know that there's an exception to the...
Yes.
Because that'll save us from going through any of this. So as,
Sure.
you know, there's an exception for this reason.
Sure.
Then we know he's not gonna fit right on the scale where he should
Okay.
be. So then let's talk about, battalion chiefs. So I know we had some changes to where we thought that starting salary should be. Mainly due to someone being promoted up and being over the starting to begin with. So in yellow here is where the current scale is at. Starting. And you can see compared to the other two where we're at. So do we need to adjust that starting salary to be different or not? Because the 1734 is not what was on the pay form for the newest person. So we need to get clarification as to where that scale starts and if you want to change it from where it was.
So the reason why that, and that was an error on my part, was when we were focusing on this, we were focusing on the EMTs and paramedics primarily. And then what we realized after the fact is that if a person was topped out on our new pay scale as a paramedic, but was acting as a captain, that they made an extra $3,000 a year stipend. When that takes place, that would put them over, because we had actually made the supervisors, the battalion chiefs, come in at the top, the starting, or the ending pay, if you will, the top of that scale bracket. So someone that was recently promoted was actually above that starting pay and above our battalion chiefs that had already been in the position for a year, almost 2 years. And so what we should have done is created that separation like we had done between EMT and paramedic. So what we want to do is take and make that separation so that way in the event that we have someone that's topped out and is still getting that stipend, it wouldn't make sense to anyone to take a promotion and either take a step back in pay or come in a lateral pay with more responsibility and really more job risk, right? Because a supervisor is going to have more risk to their career because they are now the leader and responsible for those below them. No different than me, I'm more responsible for the people below me, so I take more risk on in my career for their actions as well. And so we had initially had that set, oversight on my part, I'll take responsibility for that, but we'd like to fix that.
Okay, Matt, so are we talking 60,500?
So when we discussed it individually, we think 61.5, because that's where they're at, is what we would like to go with for that pay scale. We did not change the ending. That would still stay the same. We would just bring them in at a starting. So overall, long-term cap out is still the same. We do not feel that we need to adjust that. We think that's still fair.
And is that for
You have the
Jerry
original?
Lassiter? Is that?
So that it would be, that individual is the one that we're specifically talking about. And we do have our training and our logistics that are also classified as battalion chiefs just over, so right, we have different
So it still
classifications of
stops
battalion
at
chiefs over operations,
66,
logistics, and
like-
training. So in fairness, we would like to at least level them out.
I know, but he
and
said-
stuff. One of the ways we're gonna try to make that cost savings there is we were authorized 6 captains, we only want 3 to do that, so.
There was only ever 4 captains.
Not what I get in a week or a bi-weekly report, is what we were told there were 6 authorized. So we can pull that, so, and I can pull it up what I receive.
I was gonna say, there's 4 captains, in the old scale, 4 captains, 5 lieutenants, 6 sergeants, and then a sergeant in dispatch was what it was. Cause we moved 1 lieutenant to a sergeant in dispatch at one point, cause it was 6 and 6. So it was 4, 6, 6. Then
So
it-
we're gonna keep it at 3 captains now?
Yeah, we
yeah,
don't,
so
we don't,
you
we don't need more than
saved
3.
1.
Okay. So, yeah,
Yeah, so you saved 1, but you also added 1 paramedic FTO. So you went from a $3,000 stipend to a $1,500 stipend. So you did save $1,500. Okay, go back to supervisor. You're saying that the top end of the scale should still be the same?
That is correct.
So where we are at step 7 should still be the same salary?
That is correct.
Just divide it evenly over those
Yeah,
steps?
so, here is what we're proposing for the step increase, the difference. It's about a $750 change per year on average.
So then, is that also changing your logistics and training officer?
Yes, because they fall on that scale.
Okay, so I have the 3 captains. I have added in an extra lieutenant, which would be a paramedic FTO for, he has 2 open stipends there. And then I did not change sergeants. There's still 6 EMTs and 1 dispatch EMT. So let's go to this one.
So we're good on the battalion chiefs?
Well, you guys need to vote if you're changing that scale, because that's not the scale we have at the moment. So I think you need to,
Okay.
if you're gonna
And
do
so,
something with that, we need to do
So
that.
is that the same for training officer, logistics officer?
right, so they would fall on that same scale. So.
Okay. And then,
So reporting, if they changed it, does that change them too?
Yes, I think that's what they're saying.
Yes. And here's the form that I get, and I can email that to you if you'd like, that has the annotated notes that says that it's max for 6 sergeants, max for 6 lieutenants, which are the FTOs, paramedic lieutenant, and EMT, and max for 6 captains. And I get this from HR. The thing you ask me to sign every 2 weeks. So max 6 captains, max 6 lieutenants, max 6 sergeants.
Well, I made a mistake, it's 4.
So that's where we were coming, so we weren't trying to mislead you, but our understanding was is
Right.
that there were 6 authorized. So when we reported that that would be a $9,000 savings, that's where we were getting our information.
That's fine.
We had mistakes at school, I just don't want to make it look like we were trying to mislead
Right.
you.
No, that's why we're here.
No, yeah.
It was spreadsheet, it was obvious, it was 4.
Okay, well, Matt probably doesn't have that spreadsheet I'm taking. Okay, well, maybe he does, I don't know.
Okay, so I've plugged that change in there, and then, these other people in orange going down are the ones other than this John. We've corrected him, that's the exception one.
Okay,
There's a discussion about the people that don't currently fall on a step. So when we did the adjustments, they fell in between a step. So if you look at certain ones,
We talked in here that we were just gonna move them up so that everybody got a raise, right?
Everyone within the scale, right? If they were outside that top range, that we felt that they were
That way
already
everybody was
compensated.
on a step, we weren't gonna have people, so. I know we talked about it, Kristen, I didn't remember exactly until.
well, we moved the whole scale up, but I don't remember saying we were gonna move the people up. We moved the whole scale up at one point. Like $1,000, we moved the scale, like the starting.
Which- You mean scale being all the steps within it?
Right, so the starting salary moved up 1,000 and moved the whole scale up.
Yeah, but if they already fell within there with their years of service, which is what we were using to put them on steps, right? Then they didn't necessarily get a raise.
Right, so if they fell above their current step, they
But we
did not
felt
get a
like-
raise.
We're doing the modified Kelly version of scheduling for the 24 hours, that to kind of make that a little easier for them to swallow, that they all get a raise. And it wasn't fair for them not to get a raise. So if we put them up to the next step, which would mean they may have to wait a little longer to move up to the following step.
I guess we have a lot of people that started around the same time frame. That some of them are getting this benefit and some of them aren't.
Yeah, that's not
So,
To which ones?
so look at dispatch here. They all started in 18 at different times. We have one that started in January, the rest all kind of started together. Yet you have 2 that you're going to bump even higher than that starting.
Which ones? Do you know
These-
which ones those are, Matt?
The 2 at the bottom and look, the dispatch.
Yeah, so those
That's a
first,
bad example.
let's put there that, like, that was before my time.
Just
That
is,
was
I
a-
mean, you got one dispatcher making twice what all the others are making. So, real bad example.
Right, and she's over the top end and got nothing as well.
Well, right, but she's still making double what everybody else is making,
True.
more than double.
Yeah, so.
So then look at EMTs. So it looks like right now, and I'm not sure about Jenny and Hager. Hers is on a step at the moment. Yet you have a pay form for her to go up.
I think
So
it was because she was already at that step, so she didn't go up and right. And so remember, we're asking them to work roughly 720 hours more per year.
But she also started like right when we were doing the schedule changes.
Yeah, about a month prior, I believe, is what it was.
So then what about Eric Lofton?
Okay, so like, let's go back to Ginny though, but, so the one thing that we're asking them to do is remember in January, if the rest of the employees in the county are getting a percentage raise, our employees are not getting that raise. So we're asking employees that didn't get a raise to also not accept a raise in January. And so that's where that disparaging part for me comes in, is that we're saying, hey, department-wide, we're not gonna take that raise in order to implement the step system for people. But we're gonna ask the people who didn't get one to also forego something they didn't get 6 months prior to that. And so that's why we wanna make sure that we're trying to be as equitable as we can in this. And so prior to me arriving, there is disparity between different employees and what they were brought in at. I can't do anything about that, and I don't think that what we do is we bump one down just to level the playing field, or purposely bump them all up to that top range either, because from a financial standpoint, that's not good for us to do. But if we can try to make them as whole as we can for the amount of extra work we're trying to apply to them. So I understand that there's kind of a wide range, but remember that once they get to that, if they're there, they don't get raises until they meet that step requirement.
So, but did Mary Brooks or Eric Lofton get a raise? Because they were both here before Ginny and Hager.
They should have, because when we went through this, the only ones, yeah, they should have. I don't have. Hold on, sorry. Do you know what numbers? Okay, I see.
I don't have their, like, employee ID number. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, so they
Yeah.
did. So they got about a $3,000 raise. So some of them were extremely low compared to people. There were people that were more senior to them making less, and so they did get that raise. I don't want to put on the employee the fact that they came in at a higher rate than someone else. That's not their fault.
I just wanted to make sure that if we're fixing them,
Yeah, that's what I thought we were fixing.
yeah, we need to make sure that this is it, because I'm trying to get the budget done and we need it to,
Yeah, so when we went through, so when we found that, those pay forms that we sent were the ones that when Steve and I had both went through and found that those were the ones that had not. Everyone else had taken an increase that were within the scale. If you're outside of the scale, then you were already making more than what Mid-Missouri indicated was necessary.
so these changes will add about $18,000 to the budget in salary and benefits.
And the majority of that is coming from the battalion chief.
And actually, I don't think that's
adjustments.
right at the moment, because I think I changed two of them over here a while ago on the wrong one. I didn't. One I did. I know, all the changes are on this one. Because I thought it was
All that's
closer to
showing is
22,000.
their current title, not authorized positions.
Peters walked by with his kid.
Who did?
Yeah, but that's just what they get, not how many are
Why don't you
authorized.
change
This doesn't
the
tell me how many are authorized, it tells me what position that
There,
person
it's
is in.
23,000.
I'm in a good mood this morning. Quit
Alright.
messing with me.
Oh, come
I'm glad
on.
I missed that. Leaving it alone.
So we need to get you riled up.
I was doing just fine till I remembered we had a meeting this morning. What's this? Okay, I'll be there in a little bit.
Okay, so it's 23,000 more.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's gonna fix everything, right, Matt?
Right, so our department would not get raises until 2020.
Can we get that recorded on the,
No,
on the thing?
I just wanna, I mean, in the scheme of things, that's not that much. If it's,
In a budget that's really tight already, that's quite a bit.
Yeah, but I mean.
So the employees would not be eligible for a step increase until January 1st of 2020, provided that there was, that you guys authorized us to make a step increase.
And you said it would be basically a merit step, right?
Yes, sir. So the way those steps were going to work is it's not an automatic step. It's a step of you authorize the merit, and then we go, or the step increase, and then we would go in, and if an employee is meeting expectations, then they would be authorized that next step. So the steps are designed to tell them predetermined steps that's what they're working towards. if they're not eligible for that step based on poor performance, ideally, we're not keeping anyone that's performing poorly. But if we, if we're in a process of trying to do like a performance improvement plan, or somebody's on something like that, at that moment, they wouldn't be eligible for that step. And so we would withhold that step until the following year and to see an improvement in that. So it's a step, it's a predetermined step based on a merit that you guys would authorize every budget cycle. Yes, next year we can afford to put up everyone on a step.
So just a quick question. Is that step based on their anniversary date? Like, how are you gonna implement, like,
So-
beginning of the year, if you had somebody that started in December, is it?
So it would be based on the calendar year. So ideally, we wanted to do anniversary, but when we initially discussed this, everybody thought that because the budget for the county was the January 1st, that would make it easier from a budgetary standpoint to do that. So normally what you'll see is that if somebody's normally within the last quarter of a year, they don't make that next merit step. You wait till you complete that year and then you do.
Okay, that was just my
Yeah,
question.
so anything
is-
like half year or a little bit more, then normally you would say, yeah, we'll go ahead and make that step. But anything within that last quarter, customarily, is you would not be eligible for that step.
That was just gonna be one of the qualifications for the step raise. But that's why we called it a step and not a year. Just because you're here for 2 years doesn't mean you get that raise.
Right.
Because if you're just filling a seat, and-
Mine was just more of when do you get evaluated for that next step? And, I mean, if you've only
Yeah.
been here and you've not completed your probation, are you eligible to be recommended for a step, or?
I would say no, but
I mean, you could have someone that's still training
Right.
essentially at January 1st if they got hired 2 weeks before that. So
Right.
what?
So that's why we would put that hey, at a minimum a quarter, we could even say a 6-month period. Now, if you do the 6 month, that's an 18-month time frame that they wouldn't get raised, because they wouldn't go until the following. So that's why most people, if you're gonna do it on a budget cycle, you'll do a quarter. That if you're not out of your probation within that quarter, then you're not eligible to that step.
So you guys tell me what you want to do. We just wanted some clarification so we know where we're at and how to apply the scales and correct the issue we had with the scale.
as far, I guess I don't understand the question. Are we okay with the scale?
No. Do you want to move the people that didn't get a raise prior to, or are above their current step, up to the next step? Do you want to change the starting salary for the battalion chiefs, training officer, and logistics officer? And then are you okay with exceptions every once in a while if they're notated or?
I think exceptions, I'm okay with the exception. I think it's valid.
I'm okay with the exception too. We talked
There's-
about it and I was okay with it before.
So
And what
that's-
was the second question?
That's that one.
You gotta do one at a time here for me.
Do you
I
want
got
to,
focused.
do you want to change the starting salary for the battalion chief, training
61.5?
officer, and logistics officer?
61.5's starting and final is gonna be 67.5 yet? Yes, I'm fine with that.
Good.
I think we
Okay.
need to create some kind of separation there too and have a reason for them to wanna be in that position. Take on the added responsibility.
So we cut out a Suburban and we got it made.
You said bourbon.
Suburban.
Stories about alcohol, you said.
So this is the new, we'll copy, yeah, we'll copy that. And then the rest of the ones highlighted orange are ones where they fall in between a step and we want to move them to the next step. So you're extending the time that they would be eligible to move to another step. I don't know, maybe not.
Right, so they would, they would stop there until they caught up to that step. So that's the idea is we would give them now because we increased their hours, but we would not, they wouldn't move up at that next cycle.
And you were talking about when you're doing these steps, are you gonna do it on, I guess I think we should probably do it on like their anniversary. Not everybody on January 1, and then you have to worry about who was here the last quarter. They don't get it, they gotta go with 3 more months or whatever.
So we can do that, right? We can do their
Is that
evaluations.
gonna be a
and-
huge problem? I mean,
It just makes budgeting harder. Like, are you gonna budget everyone to move up a step, and then if they don't, you just have extra money in there?
Sure.
Or
that's what I would do. Throw it all in there and then. Cause the step doesn't mean they necessarily get the raise.
Yeah,
Wow,
we've never.
we've never done that.
Yeah.
No other departments do
No.
that.
We also put the money in and people quit, and then we have money left over. At least it's in there to cover it.
If a position is left open, that's a little different than going ahead and budgeting it for the whole year. I mean, we're out to
Same
2020.
thing.
We're out to 2020, so that, why not do it at the beginning of the calendar year? Now, if we were starting this in the mid-year, or we were starting this some other time, 2020 is a good time to start since we're at the first of the year. I wouldn't think you'd go back to anniversary dates.
I disagree. I think that's the best way to do it, and you can do evaluation on their anniversary and say.
Is their
all right,
anniversary date the date they started with the county? Is their anniversary date the date they went full time?
Or when we change
Or when
this.
you change this? What?
So generally, the way you'll see that industry-wide is, if you go to that, it would be anniversary date when you started full-time with the county, or the date that you took your promotion. So if your status changed, so if, let's say, somebody went to a battalion chief, that would restart that cycle right for them. So it's any status change at that point.
That's the way I would do it.
Yeah, I disagree, so.
Yeah,
I'd
I'm
do it
not
at
sure I
the-
agree
I'd
with
do
that
it at the
one.
end of the year. I mean,
All right, well, I lost that one. Next.
I know Osage County, they do the anniversary date, but they have a lot less than.
Oh, well, if they do
They have a lot
anniversary date,
less-
then it's messed
They have a
up.
lot less.
All right, let's.
That
No,
we
you
I
just
do.
changed Jeff's mind.
No.
No,
No.
they,
I'm leaning
I
them.
know.
No, I still like the anniversary date. If I've been here for 2 years, I know that in April I'm gonna come in and
I
do
think,
evaluation, and you don't have to do everybody's evaluation at one time. You can
right.
do a few at a
I
time.
mean, I think doing the evaluation is totally up to Matt, you know, when he does the evaluation. I mean,
thanks.
you know, if you wanna do it on our anniversary date, I don't really care. That's up to you, but the raise should be effective when everybody else's goes into effect. So, I mean, we'd have people all over the county that are gonna start in October, November, December. And, I mean, although some of those people may not get a raise at the first of the year, last quarter, you know, maybe that should be part of our,
So if I start September 30th, I get the raise, but if I start October 1st,
yep,
I don't get it.
yep.
That's totally off. That should be argument for doing it the way I say.
We've
'Cause
done
you're gonna
that.
have-
We've done that in the past, though. Like
We've
if
done that for the last 4 years.
you know, you don't
I
get
know,
the
just because
cola
we kept
if
done
you.
it doesn't mean it's right.
I've never heard any debate about it.
That's fine.
Well-
I said how I'd like to do it, that the other two said
I
they
would
don't want
say
to,
in
so-
that instance, I mean, if somebody came up to me and said, hey, this person started October 1st, you know, we'd like to give them a raise.
Where do you draw that line?
Well, you know,
It's the exception.
There's-
Then somebody comes in, hey, it was September 15th, that's pretty close. And Billy Bob over here is gonna get a raise because he started, you
where
know.
do you draw the line? I don't know. Well, deputy.
That's where you should just do it
deputy
on their
clerk
anniversary.
leaves and I got $50,000 open in my budget and I hire somebody and I pay them $50,000 to start. So, you know, I don't know where you draw the line because there's never been a line drawn as long as I've been at the county. Has there, Debbie?
Nope.
And I wasn't picking on the clerk's office either, so.
No, I'll take
It shows that recorder.
Well, I can name a bunch. I don't think it's chapter
From an
and
administrative
verse.
standpoint, obviously the anniversary date's easier from an administrative side. From a budgetary standpoint, it's easier to do it at the first of the year. I have no horse in that fight because either way, I'll get it done. It doesn't bother me either way. But, you know, so I'm not gonna lobby either way on that.
I guess I just am looking at it as, right now, we have a very tight budget in their budget. To put money in there that may not be used at the beginning of the year in salaries and just let it sit is gonna make it even tighter.
You mean for 2020?
Yeah. You're building in fluff that you may not need.
Right.
So if you have those recommendations ready
Well, I mean,
on January
so-
1st, we know who's getting them and who isn't.
So if you're gonna do it by anniversary date, you could have to increase 2019's budget because a lot of these people are gonna hit their anniversary date in 2019. And then it'd be eligible for a raise in 19. Well,
Nope.
No.
Well, that's what you're saying. I mean, you're saying that they're not eligible for a raise January 1st, 2019, when everybody else gets it, but my anniversary date comes up in 19. I mean, so you're gonna wait till,
No, I think we're
Anniversary.
saying all of 19. They're not eligible for a raise till after January 1, 2020,
so
is
what
what I
happens?
was
That's what I was
understanding.
thinking.
So what happens in 2020 when I've hit, now I might be eligible for 2 steps?
What, so,
But it's
No.
not necessarily on
Just
years of
one.
service, it's just recommendation of moving to the next step.
right, so we,
So,
right. so
Yeah,
it's
you
a
couldn't
step.
recommend somebody to move 2 steps. You're,
I mean, we could try an exception on that, but that wouldn't be the norm, right? Like, that wouldn't, like, that's not the idea behind it.
And that's where we got where we were, because it was based on years of service. So if their years of service and their salary was more than their years of service, we didn't move them, because they're way up above where they're supposed to, or up above where they're supposed to be. So that's why they didn't move. What he's saying is move them all, even though they're up above where they're supposed to be.
Right.
As long as they're within, as long as they haven't gone above the top scale. The only
I
difference.
mean, you're not equating years of service to the step?
We were initially correct, so we were.
to get you on your initial step,
And then-
yes. After that, it is a merit-based system to where you have to be recommended to move to the next step.
But if you've got people performing, if people are performing to where they need to perform, they're doing what they're supposed to do, every year they're gonna be eligible for that step. So you're saying if you're doing the job you're supposed to do, it's a yearly increase as long as we approve it. So, I mean, so to me, it's years of service. I mean, if you're not doing your job, well, we need to move you along. But if you're doing your job.
And ideally,
you're
that's how we
eligible
look
for a
at it,
raise.
is that it's going to be years of service as long as you approve it. So we don't want to tie years of service, because if you get into a budget crunch and you say, hey, this year we can't do a
Right.
step. But it would, so that's kind of why we stopped it. We put it that way. But ideally, right, I don't want to keep poor performers. So ideally, my goal is to have everyone get that step, because we've either coached them up, or if we're unable to do that, then we would look to replace that individual.
But with the ones we're talking about today, they're already
Above it.
above it, so their years of service is not getting them there.
But they didn't get anything for the extra hours worked, is where we're trying to do that. And they're not January
And they're gonna
1st
wait
getting
another year,
anything.
too.
Right, and they have to wait another year, right.
For several years.
And Chris, what you were talking about, it just takes them to step 7, and then they're maxed out,
Right.
so.
Right, once they hit their max, there's no, like, that's it.
I mean, I like the chart because once you're topped out until the scale moves. So I like it from that standpoint.
In a way, it's hard to control with that department because there's always unscheduled overtime. So
Right.
what do you consider the top? Just their schedule?
Their hourly rate. I mean, so, that's what Matt's here for, to control the overtime. So,
We're reducing it.
Yeah,
I mean, when I got here, there were 8 paramedics. We've got 21 now, so. like,
good.
That will eventually slow that down. I mean, the overtime, if you look at the overtime in and of itself, on paper, it's higher because our employees are working more hours. That's the idea of why we're asking, because they're not getting that percentage raise January 1. They're working 720 hours more a year. and they're not getting anything for that, theoretically, right? So they could have stayed on the 12-hour system and still made what they were making, right? Working less hours.
Right. But their hourly rate and their scheduled overtime
Correct.
figured into their base salary.
Correct. So
So-
the unscheduled is what we're
Yes,
trying to
so your
reduce, but
total
they're scheduled, and so right now we can't differentiate that. We're working on being able to do that. Our idea is to keep the unscheduled overtime as low as possible. We're always gonna have it because we don't have those floats.
Sure.
People take vacation, get sick, whatever. That's gonna happen. The idea is that scheduled overtime is in of itself built into their hourly rate. It's the unscheduled that increases.
I just use the term work more hours loosely. They're not working 720 more hours. They're on the clock for 720 more hours. That's always been my deal with the 24-hour shifts. You have two 24-hour shifts, you have to have 6 hours of rest and 24 hours, so technically you're working, what, 30?
So they don't always get that though either.
If you have 4 12-hour shifts, you're there 48 hours, and that's what caused part of the problems before, is while the 24s were resting, the 12s were busting their tails and having to get done, so,
That is no longer the case.
yeah. So I think the modified Kelly schedule was a good compromise, and hopefully it's working out.
Employees seem to like it, and we're getting new applicants. That's how we've been able to fill our positions.
So what's our direction on these here? Basically the EMTs that were in between steps.
So you tell me, are
Basically,
you
they stay-
moving them
they-
up,
they
or are you
stay-
leaving them there?
Right, they stay at the rate that they're at, or they move up to the next step.
Well, when we talked about it in here, I was pretty sure we said we were fine with taking them up. That way they're getting some kind of raise as well for taking on the 24-hour schedule that we're gonna implement. So we're gonna throw them a bone for, jumping in and doing it, but also they had to wait a year, so it's kind of a give and take, I think, on the whole thing. That's what I thought we had decided in here, and when I was
Right.
talking to you, Kristen, I forgot exactly how the conversation went, but we got talking about it again.
So good.
Good.
If
I
you make
think-
those kind of changes, could you
Yeah, I
communicate
think,
them?
I already told Debbie
Yeah.
that,
That wasn't what was.
Yeah,
indicated.
that was not what was
know.
communicated, that's not what
I told
everybody
Debbie
signed
that-
off on.
we should have had y'all in on the whole conversation probably,
Yeah,
so.
Now, where are you cutting $23,000 out of this budget?
suburban.
It's already over.
Capital.
That wasn't even,
His capital's in a different budget, I need it out of his operating.
Take it out of capital and transfer less, or transfer more. Right? Where else you gotta get it?
transfer less would affect one account or two. We'd have to shorten some of the accounts of the expenses. Because we're putting it in.
Right, but what I'm saying, the only way to get $23,000 is to transfer more.
More and reduce his capital.
Reduces capital. So,
It's just an offer.
yeah.
We've got plans to fix that. There's things in the process of working to do that, so.
Matt's gonna increase our revenue.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
gonna generate more revenue.
So,
I know,
You may
we
have
have
heard
heard
it before,
that.
but you haven't heard it
Well,
before from me.
We have heard that before, Debbie, and you're right, but we have not heard that.
I think with a new
Right.
billing service, I think that's gonna make a difference.
okay, can you guys vote to accept this as their pay scale so that we have it? Not necessarily the other information that's on there, cause it's a
Does it-
little squirrely, but.
Does it have the total number of positions?
3 paramedics.
Well, so your total
Captain.
number of positions is on there, but you're including your FTOs in both places. So like they're in the EMT number and they're in the FTO number. That's why I said it's a little squirrely. So like you have 21 EMTs and 22 paramedics, but you're counting them twice on that list.
I didn't think I did. I might have. I didn't think I did, though.
I think you did. Cause you have like 71 total there,
So
which we don't have
30.
71 total employees.
So 30.
How many tours you have there?
So you got 69 total current?
Yeah, plus
Should have
Matt and.
55 outside of, so field staff is 55. Then you have 4 office, so, oh, 5, including Sandy. So 60 total full-time employees in the department. So you have,
I only have 58 total, including
what's-
you all.
well,
What's
that's not
the-
including dispatchers, so that's 8.
No, it is. That's everybody. 58.
No, he's talking
Oh.
about himself.
So I have 5, so the way to look at this is I have 5 24-hour shifts that take 6 people to run that, that's 30. I have 3 12-hour trucks. 3 12-hour trucks takes 4 per, so that's 12. I have 8 in dispatch. I have 3 battalion chiefs. And I have 5 administrative assistant, Steve and I, training officer, and a logistics officer. That's the total employees in there. So 30 for the 24-hour trucks, 12 for the peak trucks, 3 battalion chiefs, 8 dispatchers, comes to, that's 63 plus 5.
You only have 50 employees.
50. 30 and 12 is 42, plus 8 is 50, plus 3 is 53.
Oh, you
You're right, I
carried
carried
one.
one to one.
Yeah, you carried an extra one. I knew it.
I'm like, you only have 58.
I carried an extra one.
So,
So his list
58.
right there has them
Which-
counted twice. So you have them as FTOs and as EMTs or paramedics.
Gotcha.
So, except the salary scales, not anything else.
okay, so.
And I'll
the
type them up on a separate sheet for just Lynn to be just those salaries.
EMTs would be 31 to 39, paramedic would be 47.5 to 57.5, battalion chief would be 61.5 to 67.5. That's all you need us to approve, is that?
That fixes his scale for the battalion chief, training officer, logistics officer. Yes.
Okay.
You should
Do
be
what?
missing 2, training officer and logistics officer.
Did he send all of them?
So you just
one
need a motion to
exception one.
implement this pay scale?
His isn't. He still doesn't.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
So the motion was to implement.
The
You-
pay scale.
Yep, okay.
Okay,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
and I think that encompassed the people that you wanted. Now that we have clarification that they have to be on a step. Okay, and you're good with the one exception?
Yes,
Yes.
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 Okay.
See you in 2020.
You
We make
wish.
that a promise for all both states.
No more changes to salaries. No more changes.
What we got on the agenda for next Tuesday? Is it
It's
a-
Wednesday, actually.
Wednesday, and we have
We're not gonna go into closed session.
to be out by 11:30 for that port thing.
Well, I'm not gonna be here, so if there's anything that,
Oh, next week.
yeah.
I don't think right now there's much.
Yes, can I copy just?
So you gonna be at that American Patriot,
scales?
deal? That's Wednesday too?
11:30.
No, because we're leaving early Tuesday morning, not getting back till late Thursday night, so.
Jeff made the
I miss
motion.
that too. I'd like to have seen it, but I'll be able to. You can pretty much probably go onto their website and look at, I think there's a video on there too that you can watch, so.
I'm sure, yeah.
So, I mean, that's,
We haven't gone out yet.
if they said they're gonna give us money, I'll make sure I'm here.
Yeah,
Somehow.
that's the rate for
Get a
the
helicopter.
61.
So just a couple things on there.
Yeah, I was just looking at it.
So this
So
needs to be
build out at the
Yes.
jail for the EMS. It's basically splitting one room into 2 places for them to sleep. Got any issues with that? About $3,500.
Yeah, I saw the email.
She should be 1086.
That's correct.
So where are they doing that at? Where that weight room is at?
That's
I'm not
correct.
sure. I mean, I think it's one of the rooms that they're
14.
currently in.
Okay.
John thought he could actually use it once they left as 2 offices, so.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you all can talk about it more if
995.
anything comes up. when I saw the email, I wasn't too worried about it. It's like, as
It's-
long as they're okay with it,
To me, it seemed a little high, but just trying to work in there is gonna be a pain in the butt.
yeah.
This goes
So
down.
getting tools and supplies.
And you got prevailing wage, so,
So
Right.
do we have to get
And then the,
those other
uh,
ones?
Do you still have the other ones? Ginny and
the
Hager,
New Year's Eve and Christmas
Tyler
Eve.
Foreman.
Yeah,
I think what we've always done in the past is that, you know, they can't just close the office, somebody.
right, somebody's
gotta
gotta
So
work.
that
work.
was
Gotta be
just
this.
taking
That's
off
if they
his
want leave early.
stipend.
I think
That's
it said
taking
they
off
had
her
to
stipend.
Take their own personal time.
Take time. Okay.
His,
I just wanted to make sure
this
that
one
everybody
should
was
be
on the
right.
same
This is
page.
him
With it
getting
falling off
Somebody-
Monday,
stipend and then he
somebody's
changed
gotta
again.
be-
somebody's gotta take the shift,
Yeah.
just one person to answer
Can we
phones or
just
something.
add the stipend
Yeah,
to the new
it's-
one?
And I'll probably come up here and tell the girls to go home too in the afternoon if my schedule works out. It's kind of what I've tried to do before.
And the tax appeal engagement letter.
That just got added to it. We got an email from the assessor's office, John Ruth Camp.
His was
He's
just
got
adding
that conflict of
stipend.
interest with one of the appeals.
That one's
So
adding
he's gonna,
stipend.
they're gonna request that we have
Stipend.
the other attorney do
How
it.
does, how does,
Who's that?
can that come to us? I was gonna
That's
ask Jill
reducing
about
his
that,
rate.
so.
That's right.
Because they asked for something at,
Yes.
BOE, didn't they?
Yeah.
She's gone, the
Yeah, we
nine
probably
ninety-five is
talked.
correct.
Yeah.
Do we wanna go out of session?
Well, I just wanted
Yeah.
to cover anything that Jeff.
Well, you had a question about,
Oh.
16,
you didn't sign that
Hey,
one,
hey,
the
Jeff.
supplies.
What's the 2,000 for
1573.
recorder for supplies?
995.
Quarter.
I don't know, I haven't
I don't
looked
know, I asked her before I
just-
signed it.
It just came up in my box.
Okay.
we need to look
Where are
at
they
that
at?
one.
Well, I didn't,
I don't have it up.
I'm like,
I'll look and see where they're at.
office supplies.
Yeah, I think so.
Taking it out of microfilm and putting it in office supplies. I don't know.
I don't know.
Do you still have him?
His was already signed. His was the one that was already signed.
This one.
Yeah, that one's right.
Take a look at it.
99 is correct.
If it's, if it's suspicious, just rip it up and throw it away.
There you go.
Schluter and Rudiger.
We didn't talk
All right.
about Brandon.
I move we go out of,
She has Brandon's.
move we stand in recess till 4:30.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, yeah.